The Formula One Singapore Grand Prix just finished up, and I'm here to go over all of the very few exciting moments, starting with the beginning of the race, going through the end, and finishing up with Lando's win by a massive margin, and the top three being a massive margin from each other. So let's get started with lap one. We're going to use the F1 lap by lap breakdown here, as well as my own notes, just to make sure I don't miss anything important. All of the top 10 started on mediums, except for Hamilton. He started on the softs. Lando into turn one, kept his lead, was pretty easy. He had a really good start off the jump. Hulkenberg actually temporarily passed Oscar after that first turn. I'm not really sure what happened. Oscar dropped back a little bit. I think he had a little bit of wheel spin off of the first turn, or off the line, I mean. Sorry, my eyes just watering all day. But anyway, Sainz dropped down to 12th and Perez up to 10th, with Colapinto jumping up to 9th, 3 spots up. So they both made some room up. Perez up to 10th, they made a good start. Colapinto up to the points. Albon ran wide into the first corner and then complained that Colapinto dive bombed him essentially. Ricardo remains in 16th on the softs. Max, the gap to Max behind was already up to 1.4 by lap 4. He kept it within a second in the first 2 laps, and then it just started getting bigger and bigger, as you'll see for the rest of the race. Lap 6, Max at the fastest lap, and the gap was down to 1.6 at that point, and the gap behind to Hamilton was 4.5. On lap 7, we got a report from Leclerc saying that he had a piece of carbon rip-off. I'm not really sure what it's from or what happened, but it wasn't a big issue for him. Didn't stop him or anything like that, but it was just something to note. Lando set another fastest lap on lap 8. Now the gap was at 2.1. Another fastest lap on lap 9 for him. He was told to up the pace by the engineers, and the gap was now up to 5 seconds. Oh, sorry, the gap was at. They told him to get the gap to 5 seconds. The gap at this point, lap 9, was 2.8 seconds. After that, he said another fastest lap, got the gap to 3.8 seconds. After that, another fastest lap on lap 13, and then the gap was 7 seconds behind the max. Lap 15, Albon had to retire due to the car overheating. He obviously just didn't have a good race, didn't get a good jump off the line, and then had to retire lap 15. He was the first one to go in this race. Lap 16, the gap to Max behind was 10 seconds, and another 7 behind Max to Hamilton, so it wasn't very close at this point. It was already starting to spread open quite a bit, and you'll see towards the end, it was wide open at the end. Really not much happening in the first stint of note other than Lando just being able to put pace on everybody. Lap 24 came along. This was a 62 lap race, I believe, so about a third of the way through lap 24. Charles was raging on the radio after Ferrari told him to stay calm. It was just classic Ferrari. Nothing else to say other than, we'll get back to you or stay calm. But Lewis, the whole race at the beginning, was constantly whining about the early pit stop. He thought they pitted too early, and he tried to pass Yuki and overshot the corner, went off a bit, so he was having a bit of a struggle session there. Um, Lando radioed that he had some front wing damage lap 30, and he had quite a few, not quite a few, he had 2, maybe 3 moments throughout this race where he almost hit the wall and almost had massive issues. The lap 30 one, he almost went straight on into the wall, and luckily for him, barely touched his tire. I guess the front wing might have hit, but there was really no front wing damage to speak of. They told him to keep going, so he was all good. Lap 37, Russell was stuck behind Leclerc on old mediums and tried to make a few moves, couldn't get past. After that move, Leclerc pitted, so as soon as Russell got close, he pitted. Leclerc came out just zero point 0.7 ahead of Hulkenberg, so he did successfully cover him off. At this point, lap 38, Piastri was starting to have trouble with his tires. Let's see if I missed anything here. Albon came into the pits for tire 17, Norris. Piastri playing the team game? Yeah, not really. There was really not much that happened, guys. I'm gonna be honest. I really only put down the important shit, and we're already on lap 37. Um, yeah, Norris leading by 11 seconds at this point. Yeah. Halfway, Norris is over. So Piastri was starting to have trouble around lap 38, and at this point, about halfway through the race, Norris was at 20 seconds in front of Max. Lap 39, Oscar finally came into pit, comes out in fifth behind both Mercedes. He didn't have much trouble passing them. Lap 40, one lap after Oscar got passed by Lewis. Oh, sorry, he got past Lewis on lap 40. One lap later, Leclerc got past Yuki. Yuki was freaking out for a while because he was stuck behind Danny Rick on old mediums and he was on soft and he wanted to let him past. I mean, kind of makes sense, but anyway, Danny Rick let him through very shortly thereafter. On to lap 42, Leclerc sets the fastest lap, only to be taken by Piastri on lap 43. And this was kind of a big deal going into the end of it too, because Norris was so far ahead that the fastest lap was going to kind of be a biggest deal if anybody could take it away from him. And towards the end of the race, he was starting to get it back sometimes. So Lando actually did have the fastest lap 49 out of 62. So towards the end, he did get it back. Magnussen, lap 50, got a puncture because he brushed off the wall, and he ended up having to. I think he ended up retiring at the end, but he pitted on lap 49.50, or sorry, he pitted on lap 52, did the fastest lap on lap 52, and took it back just for Norris to take it back on hards the next lap afterwards. Um, Perez was having a hard time getting past Hulkenberg in ninth. I don't think he ended up getting past. I'll have to double check. We'll go to the stats after this, the final standings. But 57, yeah, lap 57, Magnussen finally retired after the accident. Ricardo pitted for softs on the second to last lap on lap 61 for the fastest lap attempt, and he was actually successful. So took that point away from Norris, which is big for Max for sure. And the final result is pretty ridiculous. Let's go to the page here. We have Lando 20 seconds ahead of Max, and then another about 21 seconds here, and then another 21 seconds pretty much behind him to Oscar Piastri, and then another 20 seconds to George Russell. So the top four was just wide open. I mean, this was such a fucking boring race. I'm gonna be honest, man. The only overtakes were happening when people were pitting and then having to pretty much get back up to where they should be anyway. There was really nothing going on. Colapinto had pretty good action the first couple of laps, but then ended up falling out of the points anyway. Perez got up from 13th into the points, so that's not bad. Hulk stayed in the points, that's good for him. Alonso stayed up. I think he started in seventh, so it made sense. Obviously, Leclerc was going to come back through, Sainz was going to come back through from their ninth and 10th, so the fact that Perez got up there, I guess, is pretty decent for him. I mean, if Max is in second and has pace to keep everybody else behind him, including Oscar, that's still not great for Perez. But at least he got a point. At least Ricardo took off the points from took off the fastest lap point from Norris. Your final 20 in order is Norris in first, Max in second, Oscar Piastri third, George Russell fourth, Charles Leclerc fifth, Lewis Hamilton sixth, Carlos Sainz seventh, Alonso eighth, Nico Hulkenberg ninth, Perez 10th as the final point scorer, except for Danny Rick down in 18th. They got the fastest lap point. Actually, it says he didn't get any points here though. Maybe they don't count that. Anyway, bottom 10 is Colapinto in 11, Yuki in 12, Esteban Ocon 13, the Window Licker up in 14th. I don't even know how he got up there. Guan Yu Zhou in 15th, Valtteri Bottas 16, Pierre Gasly 17, and your your last classified driver, Danny Ricciardo. I mean, that's really only because I think he pitted at the end to get the fastest lap, so he was just already behind on that. But yeah, man, a really bad weekend for Ricciardo to go out on. At least he got that point away at the end because that might turn out to be a crucial point for Norris towards the end of the season. But damn, I feel bad, man. Yeah, it's a shame. He's probably going to be done. Good last effort, good try. At least he got the 1 point off, and yeah, we'll be back for some content over this month break and some previews of what to expect after the break. We're going to do some breakdowns maybe of the possible point situations and some other stuff. So make sure you're subscribed, like the video, and keep an eye out for some more content. Peace.